What if I told you that there's a man on this planet whose time is worth $400,000 per minute? That's right, $400,000 per minute. His name is Mark Zuckerberg. That's what his time is valued at. $24 million per hour. What is your time worth? I bet you don't think about your time in increments of $400,000 per minute, but it is incredibly valuable. More importantly, it's as valuable as you decide it to be. In this podcast episode, John Kormanik and I unpack that. John shares his story, how he got to the point where he started thinking about his time, and he's a criminal defense attorney by trade, and how he trains other law firm owners to think about their time and implement things and make their lives and businesses more intentional. To do this podcast episode, it's an hour worth investing. Great ideas there, great knowledge. Learn, implement, make your time more valuable. Hi there. I have a small but really meaningful favor to ask you. I watch at the stats on our YouTube channel and Spotify channel, wherever most people listen and watch our podcast. And I see that over 80% of everybody who listens to it regularly is not a subscriber. I'm asking you to subscribe to this channel. And the reason for that is my mission and the mission of my team is to help as many small law firm owners to learn how to transform their law firms into better businesses, and so they in turn enjoy better lives. When you hit subscribe button, you tell these platforms that this is content worth listening, worth viewing, and they in turn will show it to many other small law firm owners and hopefully help me fulfill our mission of helping them create a better business and enjoy better lives. So would you please do me this favor? It would mean the world to me, and hit the subscribe button. And my promise to you is that I will continue to work hard at creating good content with practical ideas that help you and your teams grow better law firms. Thank you. Welcome to Grow Law Podcast. I have an awesome guest with me today, John Kormanik, a former criminal defense attorney, a successful law firm owner who decided to make actually a couple of big career changes over the past 35 years, give or take, is here to tell his story and also talk about, I love the concept, the five lies that lawyers, and I think this especially relates to law firm owners, tell themselves. John, welcome to the show.
It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, so your story is so illustrious. Do tell how you went from respiratory therapist to criminal defense attorney to a lawyer that coaches other lawyers.
Yeah. Whew, what a long, strange trip has been, right? So I grew up, my mother was a nurse and my dad owned a series of businesses. So he was the entrepreneur. My mom was the nurse. My dad died when I was 14 years old. He was quite young. He was in his early 40s. He died of his second heart attack. And so I remember the entrepreneurial side of him, and I remember the nursing side of my mom. And so I was destined for a life of service. That's kind of who I am. Service is my number one core value. And so I became a respiratory therapist. And in 1986, I went on vacation from New Jersey, where I grew up, and I was practicing in a hospital there. And I went to Southern California for vacation. And I went home to New Jersey and I said, I'm leaving. And I moved across the country in my car. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have a house. I didn't have a job. I just moved because it was a place I wanted to be. And so I found an apartment, found a job, and the job is actually where I met my wife, Michelle. We had just passed our 35th wedding anniversary. We've been together for quite a long time. And our relationship is improving every day, which I love. But there came a point in my respiratory therapy career where I was leading a team of 40 people. I was in charge of the pediatric intensive care team from a respiratory therapy perspective. And I had a daughter, a 2-year-old. She's now 31. Her name is Allie. And I was bringing work home with me. I couldn't separate it anymore because of Allie. And I didn't want that, right? That's no way to live. You have to be able to turn off the work and live the life that you want to live. And so I talked to my wife, Michelle. I said, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I want to go to law school. And she looked at me kind of as if I was a bit crazy and said, we have a house, we have a mortgage, we have a dog, we have Allie, for heaven's sakes. And now you want to go to law school. I said, yeah, I do. She said, okay, well, don't mess it up. She might have used stronger words than that. As a matter of fact, she did. And so I went to law school, and I did quite well in law school.
John, I have to interrupt you there for 1 second. As I'm stunned. So you're one of the reasons why you decided to go from respiratory therapy, where you had 40 people report to you, and you were very busy, and you decided to go into yet another incredibly challenging career of law. Did you think that it was going to be less taxing on you and on your time?
I think to borrow from the 12-week year, Brian Moran, I was I was ignorantly optimistic. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? Here's what I knew. I knew that I could work really hard. I knew that, right? When I was in respiratory care, I worked the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Then I worked the day shift. I took care of people. I worked in a trauma unit. I was in life and death situations virtually every day. And that's not an exaggeration. That's the truth. And so I knew that I could do hard things. And I like school. I like learning. It's just kind of who I am. So I was like, well, yeah, law school might be a little bit intimidating, but let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. And then I will be honest, I did not think beyond law school to the actual practice of law. I didn't think about that.
Got it. I'm thinking like less taxing profession in San Diego, late 90s. I joined Baywatch. I'm now a lifeguard. I don't take my work home ever. No, instead you go to law school. So you can almost like rest assured that you're going to take your work home. But okay, great. All right. So you go to law school, and then what?
I go to law school. I did quite well. I treated it like a job. I was actually served quite well in being an older student going to law school because I knew what the world was like. And I knew what it was like to have a job. I graduated, and we were looking to settle in a bit of a smaller town to raise our daughter. And so we relocated to Boise, Idaho in 1998. It's a lovely place. If you've never been, come visit. If you have been, come back. And so we moved here in 1998. Again, didn't really know anybody. I knew the judge that I was going to work for in the Idaho Court of Appeals, but he was going to be my boss. And I knew his other clerk, but we didn't know anybody. And so we kind of picked up and we moved and we created another community, clerked, went to the Idaho Attorney General's office for a spell, and then went out into the private sector, became a partner at a law firm. And then myself and two of the guys that I clerked with decided to open what was then Kormanik, Hallam and Sneed, our law firm, back in 2006. So we did that, and then I practiced law and led and managed a successful law firm.
All in criminal defense, right?
I did plaintiff side employment law, which is just as challenging. And then I did criminal defense, federal white collar work. The longest trial that I had was a 45-day jury trial spanning 3 months in a federal white collar case. And then I also did death penalty work here in Idaho. So both post-conviction and trial work.
Okay. Was that career financially rewarding?
100%.
Emotionally rewarding?
100%. Yes to both. And as far as the emotionally rewarding, right, it was also emotionally draining. And here's for me, and here's why I say that. Because I really cared about my clients as human beings. I did. I actually had colleagues say, "You care too much." And that statement did not compute. I didn't understand it, because if you care, you care. That was very important to the work that I did and to the success that I had.
And yet, 13 years later, after you started your law firm, you decide to make yet another huge shift in your life. I thought it was a huge shift. You didn't think of it.
Yeah,
Same, but you make another huge shift.
I do. Yeah, I shifted into my current career, which is coaching, right? It's teaming up with lawyers around the world to empower them to reach their full potential as leaders, as lawyers, as human beings. So that's what I do now. This pivot was a little less, I'm not even going to call it a pivot. I think that's wrong. I think it's an evolution. This evolution was a little bit less stressful for the conversation with my wife, because I had built up a lot of credibility over the years. So this time when I said, hey, you know what? I want to move out of this practicing law. And these are the two reasons that I want to move out. I want to have a greater impact in the world, and I want to be geographically independent. I want us to be able to go where we want to go, when we want to go. I can work from anywhere in the world. And this time, instead of saying, don't mess it up, she said, how do we make that happen? And so I researched coaching programs. I settled on the one that I settled on, which is unpack. It really, it spoke to me. It resonated with me. It was in alignment with who I am. I traveled to Seattle for my coaching education. Didn't just become a coach and say that I was a coach. I trained as a coach, and now I'm certified by the International Coaching Federation, and I own my business, and I coach lawyers all over the planet.
I wonder, when you gave those two reasons, one of them was be location independent. How many lawyers who listen to this will decide to quit their careers and make a major change?
I have no idea. I just don't know. And look, here's the really important point. I don't advocate for that. I don't take a position on it. It was my path. Mm-hmm. That's what I did. There are folks who I know who practice in different areas of the law, and they find, location independence very important, and they've built their businesses to be able to do that. That's fantastic. My path is not the only path by any stretch of the imagination. And, as we talked about it today, it's quite a unique path, I would think. But if you're hearing this and you're thinking, maybe I want to do that, stop and think why. Why do I want to do that? Take the time. I mean, it took me, 18 months to get to the point where I said, okay, this is what I want to do. It wasn't an overnight decision by any stretch.
That makes sense. Along the way, you wrote the book, Breaking the Law, A Career Reimagined, and Life. I forget.
That's okay. Yeah, break the law. Reimagined legal career and a reclaimed life.
Yeah, there you talk about the 5 lies that lawyers tell themselves.
Yeah.
Do share.
Okay. All right. There are 5 lies. And Sasha, before we came on the air, we were talking about how these lies are applicable to almost every single entrepreneur on the planet. Almost every single one. And lawyers, make no mistake. You are entrepreneurs, period. Full stop. That's it. You are. You might not want to believe it, but you are. So these are the 5 lies. I have to grind all the time to be successful. The difference between grit, which lawyers naturally have at a greater percentage than the population, that's what the science tells us. The difference between grinding and grit is passion. If you don't have the passion and you're working really hard, it's grinding and it's heavy, and it doesn't need to be, right? I have to grind all the time to be successful. Line number 2, if I'm not busy, I'm lazy. This one is, it's such a challenge. It's a challenge for me today, even though I'm trained as a coach. I coach lawyers around around the world. I wrote a book about it, for heaven's sakes, and it's still really challenging for me. I think that the opposite is true. If you're busy, you're lazy. And here's why I say that. Because you're not investing the time to make the hard decisions about what you allow in to your world. You're just not making the hard decisions, right? So, line number one, I have to grind all the time to be successful. Line number two, if I'm not busy, I'm lazy. Line number four, I'm going to skip to line number four. Money will make you happy. That's line number four. Money will make you happy. Look, I'm not a guy who's going to tell you to give it all away and go sit on the mountaintop and contemplate the mysteries of the universe. If that's what you want to do, awesome. Do that. I like money. I do. I like the opportunity it affords me and my family. But the money itself is not going to make you happy. The thing with money is it's a constantly moving goalpost. Oh, I'll be happy when my business generates 7 figures in gross revenue, or I net 7 figures, or whatever it is. And you get there and you're not happy. And so you move the goalposts. It's something called the arrival fallacy. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy then is the right way to think about it, right? So that's money will make me happy. Line number 5 is asking for help is a weakness. This gets lawyers specifically, because as trained attorneys, we are required almost to be the person in the room with the answers. We can't ask for help. That's not a thing for us. It's very challenging for us. And so asking for help as a weakness is the thing that keeps lawyers at a plateau. It keeps them at a plateau. You know, there's a saying out there, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. You need a team around you to go far. That's just the truth. And Sasha, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Line number 3 is escaping me right now. It's going to come to me.
You must be available 24/7.
24/7.
I have a cheat sheet on my other monitor.
Thank you so much, my friend. You rescued me. You have to be available 24/7. That is a recipe for failure. And here's what I mean by that. Because your clients are human beings, they are going to remember the one time you weren't available for them. It's not that they choose to do that. It's how we're programmed. It's how we survived to become the apex predators of today. They're going to remember the one time out of 99 that you weren't. And so you set yourself up for failure from a client relational standpoint. You set yourself up for failure from a family relational standpoint. If you're at dinner with your family and you're on your phone, you're not truly present. You're not there. And your family will know it. They will recognize it. It is there. And so being available 24/7 is indeed a recipe for failure. Your time is the most valuable thing that you have. Set boundaries with it. Your clients will respect it. I have a client. We were actually in Berlin together for a workshop that I just did. And he was amazed that his clients did not bother him when he was gone. And he was a little uncomfortable with it. Quite frankly, he was a little uncomfortable. He's like, my email's not blowing up and I don't know what to do. And, you know, it goes back to that. If you're not busy, you're lazy. And I said, well, you set the parameters, and because of the relationships you have with your clients, they respect you. They're not going to violate your guardrails. And so it was a wonderful opportunity to actually see that lie be turned on its head and result in a successful networking trip for him and a connection time for he and his wife and then his daughter.
That's amazing. I want to unpack some of these concepts, or all of them perhaps, but not one by one. I'm going to group the first two. You have to grind all the time, and if you're not busy, you're lazy.
Yeah.
There is a concept that I think most business owners subscribe to, and that is grind, 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 grind harder, work 6 days a week, 7 days a week. Lawyers, especially when it comes to billable hours, the more you bill, the more successful you become. Which, if you are a business owner, and if you are a lawyer who owns his or her own law firm, you are a business owner. You already chose a different path, right? You're not working in an AM 250 law firm in New York City where you are required to bill 70, 80 hours a week. That's just not the path that you chose. And when you become an owner, you have to separate those two things: practicing law versus practicing business. Practicing business requires significant downtime to think, not to operate. If you are operating, you're not thinking. And if you're just operating most of the time and not thinking, you're making very poor decisions because there's very little time attributed to thinking. The best time to think, and this is, I have multiple advisors. My business partner and I, we have multiple advisors in our business. Our top advisor has 18,000 employees. His part of his work, he lives here. I live in East Florida. Part of his work routine is between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. He goes for a walk on the beach. So this is my most productive work time. It's when I think. I don't have to think about that specific thing. I can think about the seagulls that I think, about the ocean, about the sun, or about that specific thing, because your brain needs a rest to be more efficient machine at producing better decisions. So I agree wholeheartedly, although I violate the rule with a very, very packed calendar. But I gotta say, I am recovering. Like 2 years ago, if you would have met me, you would know that I have 10 to 13 meetings every single day. Today it's down to 4. I
Yeah.
still pack my calendar with other things because if I need to do something, I just put it on the calendar. But
Mhm.
there's a lot more thinking time. So I agree with you wholeheartedly on these 2 points. I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah. And Sasha, the thing for lawyers is thinking doesn't feel heavy and it doesn't feel like work. I just wrapped up a 1 year coaching engagement. That's the minimum that you need to commit to work with me. It's 1 year because the work that we do is really challenging because
Mm.
I hold the mirror up and make you look at yourself and all the things. And so it was this change from billable time and legal work and meetings and to my work is now thinking and reading and connecting. That's the work when you get to a certain point. And to get to that point where that's all it is, you have to. It's a journey. It's,
You
it's
have
not
to
a
earn it.
light switch. You've got
You
to
have to.
earn it.
You've got to earn
And
it.
in order to earn it, though, in order to even begin that, you have to set time aside to
Hmm.
think. It's
Hmm.
a non-negotiable.
Hmm. I agree. I also thought about the Japanese School of Management that requires their managers once a day, I think for about an hour, to sit and not do anything.
Yep.
Meaning you cannot look at your computer monitor. You can look out the window, and employees walking by their manager's office know that this is the most productive time. Just because
Mhm.
he or she is looking out the window doesn't mean that they don't have anything to do. It's the
Right.
thinking time.
100%.
It's very, very important, which goes once again hand in hand with not being available 24/7,
Yes.
which I know thousands of lawyers. I haven't asked all of them, obviously, this question, but I bet that overwhelming majority of them quite available.
Oh, 100%. I had a conversation with an attorney in uh, Israel, and this is a thing outside of the U.S. It's in Israel specifically. He talked about how everyone has his WhatsApp number, so
Yep.
his cell phone number. Everyone has it, and I said, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, just because that's what everybody does." And I said, You're reminding me of something my mother would say when I was a 6-year-old. John, Robert, if everybody jumps off a bridge, are you going to do that? It's like, that is not a reason. That is not a reason.
Yeah.
So think of it. You have to be intentional about it. You have to be intentional about it all. And, I talk in the book, and the book is a business fable. So these are just my thoughts. It's not based on real people, but the coach is asking the client to go and ask his physician friends, his doctor. He's got friends who are like neurosurgeons and, cardiologists and things like that. Ask them if they give their patients their cell phone numbers. And the attorney's like, I'm not going to ask them that. That sounds crazy. I know they don't do that. Well, then why do you? Why do you? That's the question.
100%. It's also interesting that you brought up Israel, where religious folks who live in Israel, they shut their phones down. Just like Jewish community outside of Israel, Friday, before the sunset, everyone powers them off, and they do not power them on until well after sunset on Saturday.
Yes,
The great
100%.
late, whether you like him or didn't like him, Charlie Kirk, who was not a Jew, he followed the rule of Shabbat, and he would always power down. He said that was one of the secrets of his successful marriage, is that he and his wife would spend time together without their phones.
Yes.
My other mentor, Darren Hardy, amazing guy, former publisher and chief editor-in-chief of Success Magazine, same thing. He said Saturdays and Sundays are for my wife and I.
Yeah.
We do turn off our phones. Everyone in the family knows that we turn off our phones. Not Jewish folks. They're just like this is for our sanity. This is not for, I don't think they're religious at all, actually. This is for our sanity and for our relationship.
Yeah.
That's what we're not available.
Yeah. And Darren's great. Look, he's fantastic. And here's the thing. Your phone is engineered to distract you. It's engineered to grab your attention. There are super smart people around the world who develop these apps. They're psychologists, they're psychiatrists, they're all this stuff. It's not your fault that you're distracted by your phone. It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's intentional. And so you have to be intentional about, I'm not going to have this. When my daughter was growing up, phones were not allowed around the dinner table. There are no phones here. You leave it in your room. And we did the same thing as parents. It's so important.
Yeah. We follow that rule at my house. No phones at the table.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful that you brought up the example of the phone being designed, and all of the apps and all of social media is designed to keep your attention for the longest possible time. I mean, like the social media, including YouTube algorithm, is designed to keep you there for as long as possible. So a lot of the things that you're going to see are either entertainment or something that gives you pleasure, or something that's really negative, something that creates fear in you, because either pleasure or fear will keep you glued to the phone for the longest time possible. And I've thought about this. So engineers design it that way for the purpose that monetizes the device and everything that you see on the device to the highest power.
Yeah.
Same thing with engineered food.
Yes.
Like broccoli is not going to keep your attention in wanting to go to the store to buy more, but Lay's chips will. It's engineered food versus real food.
Yes. Yes. And it requires, the world today, and you can listen to this episode 30 years from now. So it's going to be the same thing, and it's going to require us as human beings to be much more intentional about protecting our focus and our time.
Yeah. Same as you would when you go to a grocery store. Hopefully you do not let your kids or yourself buy half a gallon of Coke every time you make a trip there. You do not buy chips and all kind of other engineered food that's designed to attract your attention. It's taking a defensive position for your sanity, for the quality of your life, really. And thus, speaking of quality of life, not being available 24/7. I do not expect my employees, and my partner and I have nearly 100 employees. We do not expect any of them to be available 24/7. I've chastised many of them when I would send them a message via Slack. For those who are not familiar, Slack is a communication platform. If they respond to me in under 10 minutes, and they are project focused employees, I know what they're not doing right. They have that fucking notification on.
Yeah.
And,
And they're
and I
not
get I
focused
get
on
really
their
I
project.
get really mad. I get really mad because I'm like,
Yeah.
how did you respond to me in under 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Like how? I don't get mad the first or second time, but by the third time I'm like, turn off
Yeah.
notifications. I never want you to respond in under 10 minutes unless I just happen to catch you in that break time between different projects.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%. And I work with the lawyers that I work with. I will tell them you must turn off notifications and you must turn off that little red dot that either just is the red
oh yeah.
dot or it has a number in it, because we, and I say this with love and caring, we have become Pavlov's dogs.
Oh yeah.
That's who we've become unless we're intentional. We have that ability to be intentional. We're not canines. We have the ability to choose. So choose, make the choice to not be distracted. You'll be able to do better work. You'll be able to do it more effectively, more efficiently. Your clients will be more satisfied. You will make more money if you have distraction free time in your days.
Yeah. Another thing that Darren taught me, but I've never implemented this tactic: work uninterrupted for 90-minute increments.
Yes.
Like no notifications, no phone, nothing. Just work uninterrupted. I will never answer my phone if it rings during the day, with two exceptions. My 81-year-old mom is calling, or one of my kids' school is calling.
Mm.
Either one of those calls is alarming enough for me to stop what I'm doing and go there, but all
Yes.
other calls, I allow them to go to voicemail, or if it's someone who I know, they'll just text me and I'll respond
Yeah.
whenever I am done with what I'm working on. Super important. The next
100%.
concept:
100%.
money will not make you happy.
Yeah.
I agree and disagree.
Tell me.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I look at money as a way to gain freedom.
Yes.
I know that money can also create a lot of problems. So, for example, I have three boys, ranged from 18, the oldest, to 17 months, the youngest. I know full well, because I've seen it in real life, that making a ton of money for a young man creates a lot of opportunities for creating a lot of problems that will stay with them for many years, decades, or for the remainder of their natural life, no matter how long or short it may be, because they came into that money early. Regardless of whether they made it or inherited it, even if they made it, if it's a ton of money, it can still create a lot of problems. Seen it. So that's not good. But also, like having money, reasonable money, at the right times of life, I think that it creates a lot of freedom. So I do not understand why you would say that money will not make you happy.
Because it's not the money that makes you happy, it's the freedom.
The freedom, that's right. But you cannot have freedom without having the money.
But not but, and you're right. And like I said, I'm not a guy who's going to tell you to give away all your money and go sit at the top of the mountain. That's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I understand what money can provide you. And this is what I will say. If money makes you happy, then the richest people would be the happiest people.
But that's not
Look
true.
around the world and tell me if that's true or not.
Probably not.
No, it's not. So it's not money. It's freedom. And here's the thing that happens though. We think that it's the money. And so we set a goalpost, we set a goal, we get there and we're not happy. So it must not be us, it must be the goal. The goal wasn't big enough. And that's not it. Look, we all know people who have amassed what I would consider wealth. And they're not, they're not the Musks and the Gates and the Bezoses of the world, but they have amassed wealth. Do they exercise their freedom that money provides, or do they just continue to work and think, well, someday I'll do the thing. Someday I'll be able to spend the money. And when you get to the someday, are you able to? Number one, physically capable of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, your someday is not guaranteed. I mentioned before, my dad died when I was 14, and this is something that sticks with me, and I think about, not to be, kind of macabre about it, but I think about it almost every day. I really do. Our time is not guaranteed. And so this someday, I'll be happy when, this arrival fallacy really trips us up, and it trips lawyers up, I think, to a degree that it may not trip up others, especially law firm owners, because we have all this responsibility. We have this obligation. We have this belief that we need to be there. And the someday doesn't come. And then what's the whole point, right? The point of your law firm is to support the life that you want to have. It's not the other way around. It's not your life supports your work. It's your work supports your life. And so what's the point if you don't get to enjoy the money? Money provides you freedom. I agree with that. Exercise the freedom. Exercise it starting today. Do something today.
Mm. It's a really good point. I think as I listened to you, another thought came to mind, and that is when successful business owners sell their business, many of them become miserable because part of the exit plan was not, what am I really going to do next? And making sure that whatever it is that you envision you're going to do next is actually going to make you happy, because for most guys and gals, there are only so many hours that you want to spend playing golf.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not of retirement age, chances are most people who you know are not retired. There's a really good probability that you're going to be by yourself
Yeah.
for substantial periods. I sold my first business when I was 30. In the first 4 months after I sold it, I really knew what loneliness meant. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everyone was working. And I mean,
Yeah.
everyone was working. And I'm like, okay, well, this is great. What am I going to do next? And I started the next thing 4 months after that. But I didn't have vision when I sold my 50% of that business. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important to kind of plan ahead, right? So
Yes.
as I add another, let's say $100,000, incremental income of $100,000. And to some of you, you may be thinking, depending on where you are in life and your paycheck, you may be like, I wish I had that fucking problem, worrying
Mm-hmm.
about what am I going to do if I make another $100,000. But imagine, so I've traveled this path, right? So there's a path where you're making 100 grand in today's money, and you're like, good, enough, not enough. And you're like, if I make 200, and you make 200, and you're like, good, enough, not by a long shot. At 200, you realize that 100 was nothing. And at 200, things okay, things are clicking together, but, and you go 300, 400, 600, 1 million, and you're like, oh, your appetite can become insatiable if you do not know why. So for that reason, one of the mechanisms that I have every year as I think about my income, I actually create a budget. What am I going to do with the money? And a percentage of that money has to be, first of all, charitable giving, because that's what makes certain increments more meaningful. Because you got a house, you got the car. Okay, maybe you don't have a yacht, but that's okay. You can always rent one, right? So then you think what's next, right? So you do charitable giving, if you are of a faithful mindset, you're going to do your 10% of your net income, right? It makes you feel good, but what else, right? In addition to that, you have a fun budget, right? And then you look forward to that incremental 10,000 or 50,000 or 100,000, or if you're doing great, maybe a few 100,000. Not there yet, but if you get to the point. So I think money can make you happy if you make that meaningful. And one example who I respect immensely, who I think was never happy with money, ever, 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 but I respect him tremendously, is Warren Buffett. He's an old
Yeah.
man. He's 95. He's incredibly smart. He's one of the wealthiest people on the planet. He never gave a shit about the money that he has. Never.
Yeah. The money is it's a natural consequence of the game he plays.
That's it.
He plays the game, and the money the money is just created. He lives in the same house he bought when he was
1959.
just starting out, right?
1959.
That's
66 years ago.
Yeah, that's the guy, right? Do you have to be Warren Buffett in that way? No, you don't.
No.
You don't. And he's a perfect example of the joy comes from the game. It doesn't come from the money. And we don't control the money. We control the game. We ought to control the game.
We are
It's within
to
our
a degree.
power. Yeah.
Yeah, to a degree. The last lie that
Yeah.
we business owners, you lawyers tell yourselves is that you have to have all the answers. You do not
Yeah.
ask for help. I've committed that sin many times. I don't anymore, but I committed that sin many times. And by the way, thinking of point number 4, I did not make a lot of money that I could have made because I didn't ask for advice. I didn't ask for help. There were people who were like right there. I could have asked them, and what they would like, buddy, here's how you do this, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, my ego was too big, or like I should know.
Yeah,
I
I
should know. I'm
should
not going to
know.
ask.
It's embarrassing, right? I don't want to be embarrassed. Oh gosh, and this is the voice in your head. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a dumb question. That's a dumb question, right? Here's how I frame it with my clients, and this is based on an article about Mark Zuckerberg's private jet. The article was all about the carbon footprint, right? It was flying back and forth to his property in Hawaii, and it was like flew back and forth 5 times in 36 hours. Very important article, very important issue, but that's not what I took away from the article. What I took away from the article was one sentence. And I read this article 28 months ago now. The one sentence in the article was Mark Zuckerberg's time is valued at $400,000 a minute.
You got to repeat that, John. You got to repeat it.
For Mark Zuckerberg's time is valued at $400,000 per minute.
Minute, not hour. Minute.
Not hour, not day, minute. 60 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you that my time is just as valuable for my clients and my family as Zuckerberg's is. That Sasha, yours is just as valuable for your family and your team as Zuckerberg's is. It just is. The listeners, the lawyers, the entrepreneurs, your time is as valuable as that. So if asking for help is a weakness, you are performing tasks which are not worth $400,000 a minute. You're doing stuff you shouldn't be doing. Period. Full stop. That's just the truth. It was really crystallized with one of my clients. We were having a conversation, and if something, I'm a big believer in who, not how. Find who is really good at this thing and have them do it. Pay them to do it because they're going to do it better than you do. But I was talking to a client, and this was in the context of delegation. And it was a thing, but it's a repeatable task. And I had this $400,000 a minute conversation with him not a month before. And during the conversation that we were talking about this in, he's like, yeah, but it only took me 5 minutes. And I said, that's $2 million. 5 minutes is $2 million. Oh. And I could see the light bulb turn on his head because I do all my coaching by video or in person. I could see it. And I said, okay, what are you thinking? He said, I was thinking it's just easier for me to do it. But because it's a repeatable task and it's going to happen again and again and again, it really doesn't make sense for me to do it. I said, no, it doesn't. That's a $2 million mistake. And the beautiful thing is now you recognize it and you can fix it. And he did.
Yeah. On this subject, there's another very powerful story that may be even easier to understand because people like for me, it's really hard to conceptualize. I crunch those numbers in my head. $400,000 per minute times 60 minutes is $24 million per hour times 8-hour long day, $186 million per day. I'm like, all right, so let's say if this guy works like 200 days a year, that number does not make sense.
Yeah.
But it does. It does. The impact of his decisions as the CEO of a worldwide conglomerate, because they are a worldwide conglomerate, could be $56 billion a year or something like that.
Hmm.
right? So it's not like direct impact, but long-term impact can be worth just that, just decisions that he makes. So it makes perfect sense. So Darren Hardy, who you and I both know, he told me this story back in the day of Success Magazine when he was leading it. He had a big client who reached out to him and said, I want to fly in Sir Richard Branson to our corporate event, and I will pay, this is many years ago, I will fly him on our jet. I will pay him $100,000 for 1 hour. Because you've interviewed Mr. Branson, would you mind reaching out to him and just asking if you would? And Darren reluctantly said, fine, big client. Again, $100,000, this is 20 years ago.
Hmm.
So he reaches out to Sir Branson, and Sir Branson's office says no. So he goes back to his client and says, they said no. Says, 250, please try. Goes back to Sir Branson's office, they're like, absolutely not. Goes back to his client, they said, absolutely not. They're like, 500,000. He's like, I don't want to be this go in between, but fine. So he goes, and they say, no. And so he goes back to his client and says, they said, no. Just a short answer, no. So the client is furious, and he is like, how much money would it take for Branson to fly on our jet here for 1 hour, and I will fly him back. So he's like, now Darren is curious. So he goes
Hmm.
back to Branson's office and he says, well, how much money would it take for Sir Branson to fly out and do this 1 hour thing? And the answer was stunning. They said, there's not enough money. There's no amount that would get Sir Branson to fly out and do this thing. And so Darren is like, why not? And the answer was very simple. He's currently working on 3 priorities and he doesn't do anything else but these 3 things.
Yep.
And so he goes back to the client and he tells that story and he says, yeah, well, he can do that because he's Branson. He's like, no. He is Branson because he does that.
Yes.
Because he's only working on 3 projects.
Yep.
And speaking for 1 hour, despite the private jet to and from, is not appealing. So all of us, most of us, probably have a price, right? So if somebody called me right now and said, Sasha, would you fly out and do this 1 hour thing for $5,000? I would say absolutely not. For 50, you would definitely have me thinking. For 100, I'd ask you when.
I'm going to push back. I don't think that's true.
For me, it's I know because because I don't think the same way as Branson. I haven't graduated to that level yet.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Could somebody have paid you $100,000 to miss the birth of your 17-month-old?
Absolutely not.
See, that's why I'm pushing back.
Not a million.
There is no money. There's no
money.
Price.
Yeah.
So it's there, right? And the thing about Branson is, the difference is, it's not situational with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
it
me,
is just the rule. This is my rule. This is my heuristic. It's living by rules. Living by rules is super powerful. It's very liberating. Here's what I mean by that, right? Sir Richard Branson's got that. Look, I've got my 3 priorities, and your thing is not one of them.
Yeah,
for me, sleep is a priority for me. Rest and recovery and sleep is a priority. My friends will tell you that if they are planning something that requires me to be out past 9 p.m., I will not be there. I'm just not coming because my rule is I'm in bed at 9 p.m. Doesn't matter where on the planet I am or what's going on. 9 p.m., I am toes up because I awake at 4:30 a.m., no matter where on the planet I am, so that I can have my morning ritual, my morning routine before my day starts. That's just the rule. So my friends now know not to ask me. People who don't know me will ask, and I tell them the rule. And they're like, yeah, but it's just one night. I said, no, it's not just one night. This is who I am, period.
That's an amazing rule. You know, we can couple this, right, with not being available 24/7.
Yeah.
With like money doesn't solve all the problems and money will not make you happy. This is great. What advice? So thinking back, your career started, I believe you said in 1986.
As a respiratory therapist, I started in 84. Yep.
84. So 41 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Oh gosh, don't say that.
Imagine your 41-year ago self.
Yeah.
What main advice would you give yourself if you were able to travel back in time and give yourself one very meaningful advice? What would it be? Something that would make not necessarily your career, but your life in any meaningful way better.
Be more intentional. For the longest period of time, I was someone who life kind of happened to. Like, oh yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do that. It wasn't, it was intentional to a degree, but not across the board and not to the degree that it is today. I am an intentional being today. I don't just react very often. I am intentional about the things that I do. And so if I were to tell that to myself when I had first started as a respiratory therapist, I think the journey that I took to today would have been much more calm than it otherwise was.
That makes so much sense. And I'm going to add to that. I've shared this before we hit the record button today. I highly recommend having a serious health scare. Once. I just spent a couple of days in the hospital, just one night. And I got to the hospital with a major health scare, what looked like something that could have killed me. And then the doctors looked at me and they're like, we don't know exactly what this is, but that's definitely not it. You're fine. You can go home. This is fine. They checked me from head to toes. They're like, go home. You're fine. But it looked really sketchy. So when I walked into that hospital, into the ER, they were like, Code Blue, let's go. This guy may be having this. I thought I was having a stroke. The right side of my face just went numb.
Ugh.
And it just kept on expanding like this. And I'm like, tell my wife, I'm like, this does not feel like anything I've ever felt before. And she's like, she was a healthcare practitioner for 10-something years. And she's like, well, that is not good. She's like, the nearest ER is 10 minutes away. Like, let's go. So we went and I was CT scan, MRI scan, this scan, that scan, neurology. And they're like, everything we look at, you're fine. We don't know what this is. But there is a cervical nerve number 5 that's responsible for sensation in your face. Like that thing is misfiring. We don't know why, but it's misfiring, and that's why you feel the way that you feel. But there's nothing wrong with your brain. There's no stroke. You can go home. You're fine. Great. But while I was at the hospital and contemplating, oh why haven't I done the estate plan like I've been meaning to? And then I'm like, well, if I make it, like what would I change? And there were 3 takeaways. And as my wife picked me up and we're driving home last night, I'm like, listen, there are 3 things I want to talk to you about. And those things were about like doing things routinely with more intention. Doing a little bit less of the things that are very meaningless, like routine stuff at home. Mentioned this before we hit the record button. Like, why do we spend so much time doing laundry? Like, that's dumb, Like I know it feels like minutes to put it in the machine, start the machine, take it from one machine, put it in another machine, then take it out and fold it. But you gotta stay at home and wait for the thing from start to finish. I'm like, why do we do that on weekends? It's so stupid. So one of the things, there are a couple other things that are more private that I do not want to share, but like some things that I'm just like, we should be more intentional and more meaningful about the things that we do. So I love that. John, one thing that I did not really ask you very much about, but you brought up the subject of you coaching people.
Yeah.
And you said that the minimum commitment that you usually have with your clients is 1 year.
That's right.
I
12
have
months.
coaches. I have coaches. My partner and I, we have the same coaches that coach us on like big, meaningful things. People who have accomplished more than we have. And they're guiding us along our journey so that we can get to where we want to go a bit faster. Just like presidents have their cabinets, all CEOs have board, like you got to have people advising. Why is it 1 year? And what would your client, like a typical client, a law firm owner, expect to get out of it in that 1 year's time?
Yeah. So why it's a year is very simple. Over the course of my career, not only as a lawyer having coaches, as a coach having coaches and as a coach coaching clients, I understand the change that is required, the evolution. And again, I'm going to pull Brian Moran back in, right? There are five points on the cycle of change. Seth Godin calls it the dip. Moran calls it the cycle of change. Let's talk about it. It is uninformed optimism. Mm-hmm. This is the answer. I'm going to have a coach, or I'm going to have this shiny object, or this tech, or this whatever it is, right? And then we start to do the work together, and we get to informed pessimism. Oh, my goodness gracious. This is going to be harder than I thought.
The low point.
And that's not even the low point. That's just, this is going to be harder. And then we get to what Moran calls the valley of despair. I call the evolutionary inflection point. Godin calls the dip. You get to make a decision right here at the very bottom, at the trough. Do I go for the different shiny object, or do I stay and do the work and get to the point of informed optimism? Meaning, I've been chalking up wins. I know that I can do this. I know that I can move forward and achieve the goal. So for clients, it's about 4 months to get to the evolutionary inflection point. It's about 4 months. And if I was a coach who did a monthly retainer, they'd bail. A vast majority of them would bail. If I was a coach who had 6 months, they'd just glide the last 6 months. Or the last 2 months. If you're there at month 4 and we have 8 more months to go, you're going to work. You're going to do the work. And we're going to get through that, and you're going to grow and you're going to learn. So that's why 12 months. I had a client tell me relatively recently, I thought working with you was going to be checklists. This is the hardest work I've ever done with you, John. Mm-hmm. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. So that's why 12 months. What clients can expect from me? I use what I have termed the RISE coaching framework. Now, each and every client get to drive the conversation. They will come to me with pain points. They get to drive the conversation. But I do it through a RISE coaching framework, RISE. R stands for roots. We do an attitudinal assessment. We may do a personality assessment. We will do a vivid vision. You will read Cameron Herold's book, Vivid Vision. You will do a vivid vision. You will have me push back and say it's not big enough. You will go back and do it again and again until it's big and it scares you. We do that roots work. You got to find out who you are. What makes you tick? What are your core values? What is the stuff under the hood? Then we do the I, which is inventory. What's your tech stack? What's your human capital? What are the things that you can leverage to achieve your goals? What's out there? And especially with tech, with lawyers, and I speak from experience, I don't mean this in a bad way, but lawyers are really good at throwing money at stuff and then not paying any attention to it. So we do, you're smiling, you know what I'm saying.
I have a pretty good idea of what that looks like in real life.
Yeah. And so we do an inventory, and the inventory is, what is your tech? What is your yearly spend? And what is your level of involvement? What's the tech doing for you? Is it we do it on a scale of 1 to 10. 10, I'm playing full out in it. 1 is, I throw money at it and nothing happens. Nobody's ever a 10. And so we do that. And then we inventory your human capital, right? What are the Gino Wickham traction? What are the seats on the bus and who's in them? And are they the right people in the seat? Or do you need to redesign the seat? What's going on? We do that inventory. And then S is for strategy. Okay, we now have a really good understanding of who you are. We have a good understanding of what you want via your vision. We have a good understanding of your tech and human capital that you can leverage. Let's set some goals. Let's do that. And then we have the E, which is really 2 E's. It is execution to achieve the goals, and is evolution, because if you were the type of person who could have that thing that you say you want 3 years from now, today, I'm here to tell you you'd already have it. You just already have it. you must evolve as a leader, as a human being, to be able to have the success that you want to have. And so that's the E. And we wash, rinse, repeat. We go through it. Each session, the client must share a win. We start with a win always, because my clients are super busy. They're in super stressful jobs, careers, and sharing a win changes the frame that they're operating in during our time together. The people that I work with are law firm founders and partners who started small, maybe even solo, and now they've grown and they want to evolve into CEOs who still practice the way they want to practice, but they are CEOs more than lawyers. They understand the value of that transition.
Yeah, I find it very interesting. And I wish we could continue with this for hours longer, but I find it very interesting that when most lawyers decide to become law firm owners, they do not realize that over time, being a CEO of the law firm is going to be infinitely more valuable in dollars
Yes.
than practicing law. Practicing law has a certain cap. Practicing business does not have a cap. Well, it does. $400,000 a minute, let's say. That's
there you go.
You're at the ceiling. You reached it, but somewhere between, let's call it $50 an hour and $400,000 per minute, it's a really long spread. In law, I've paid lawyers $650 an hour. I know there are more expensive lawyers, but at $650 an hour, you're pretty close to that cap.
Yeah,
pretty close. But with business, not even near that.
Yeah, and the thing with that hourly model, it doesn't make sense for a whole bunch of reasons. But the thing with the hourly model is you've got 168 hours in a week. That's all you have. You cannot create any more minutes. It's not possible.
Nope.
So it's not scalable. You're limited. Yeah. On the entrepreneurial side, on the CEO side, on the business owner side, it's limitless.
Yep. Yeah. My company does search marketing. Does it incredibly well. Creme de la creme, top 1%, burnout. I don't do anything marketing related.
Yeah.
Nothing. In fact, if I was asked to replace any of my people in production, I'd be like, now what do I do?
Yeah.
I know a theory, I know a strategy.
Yeah.
I know how it works, but can I do it? I cannot do it. That's what makes me very scalable. Most 100%. Of my time is spent on thinking, deciding, and doing this podcast and doing some other videos.
Yeah.
That's really it.
Love it.
John, your website, John R. Kormanik, Kormanik, right?
Yes, that's right.
Awesome.
That's me.
Check it out. The name of the book is Break the Law, A Story of Reimagined Career and Legal Life.
Yep.
Did I get that right?
A story of a reimagined legal career and a reclaimed life.
Legal career and a reclaimed life. I had it right.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure and honor. Thank you so much, John.
Sasha, thank you so much. I could talk with you for hours.
Maybe we'll do part 2 in a year or so.
That sounds great.
Terrific.